Pour one out for Pioneer. Yo, what's good, Spirit Squad? It's been a really long time since I've seen y'all, and let's be real, my interaction with Magic the Gathering as a whole has been extremely light. Now, I have been writing some articles here and there for the manabase.com, so check those out. There's a lot of good material in there, but as far as actually playing Magic, my time this year has been incredibly light. I've been blessed enough to actually win a bunch of RCQs this year, including one for Pioneer earlier in the year, so I did get to take the chance to go to Washington, D.C. and play in the regional championship earlier this month. I'm really glad I did though, because unfortunately, Wizards of the Coast has straight up announced that the 2025 competitive play season will not contain any Pioneer. All of the regional championships and RCQs are going to be some mix of standard, modern, or limited, meaning any fans of Pioneer, unfortunately, we might have to look for 2026 and hope for the best. But to show our last competitive hurrah for Pioneer, what we are going to do today is just go through the archetype that we played at the RC, why I thought it was good, and then of course, some gameplay. So what we have here is a Midrange Spirits list, and this is going to contain all three of the new tools I was really excited about from Duskmourn. The first one is going to be Sheltered by Ghost, and this thing is a really strong aura. It costs 1 and a white, enchant a creature you control. When this thing comes into the battlefield, you get to exile a non-land permanent an opponent controls, and that is any non-land permanent. So if they have like a temporary lockdown, a leyline binding, enigmatic incarnation, it doesn't have to just be creatures. So that's really big game for us. But the creature you enchant also has +1/+0, Ward 2, and lifelink. The lifelink is incredibly huge in a lot of matchups, especially since there is a shit ton of aggro in Pioneer right now. So there's gonna be a bunch of Monasteries with Spear Prowess decks, and unfortunately for me, I happened to face 7 of those during my time at the regional championship, and 0 Azorius control. So I don't know, what do you want me to do? But this card is incredibly good. I thought it was going to be really good, and then it played even better. The second big thing is going to be Enduring Innocence. And this card is 1 in double white for a 2/1 life-linking friend, which is already not bad against the aggro decks, right? But whenever one or more creatures with power 2 or less enter under your control, you get to draw a card. So Takasia's Welcome. It's pretty close to Takasia's Welcome. And these things, just like Takasia's Welcome, do stack. Now, normally Takasia's Welcome is a sideboard card, but seeing as this thing is a creature, we kind of want it in the main deck. This card's really good. But when it dies, you get to return it unto your control as a non-creature enchantment. So even decks like Rakdos Midrange, which are really good at killing creatures, is going to have a hell of a time getting rid of specifically cards like Enduring Innocence, which can outvalue all of those Thoughtseizes, Duresses, Liliana effects by itself. This card is super bonkers against anything that wants to try to limit you on resources. And the third thing is just going to be a couple of copies of Flood Farm Verge. Now, this card is normally just kind of like, okay, fine, it's another dual land, so what, who cares, you already have 12. But in this specific case, it happens to be a painless duel, which is a really big deal when we are trying to face down a bunch of aggro decks. And unlike all of the other duels that we've been playing, really, Flood Farm Verge naturally taps for white. That's important because we want a couple of things to definitely come into play on time. We have portable holes against the really aggressive decks, 2 in the main and 2 in the board, that we just super need to make sure come in when they need to come in. And Enduring Innocence and Wandering Emperor both cost double white. So we don't have any spells other than Brazen Borrower that cost double blue. That means that we do want to lean a little bit into the white side of the mana so that we can reliably cast our spells on time. And seeing that we have 6 cards in the main deck with double white pips, we really want Flood Farm Verge to be able to always tap for white and maybe worry about the blue a little later sometimes. But the blue part of the deck is still Spirits, it's still great. We've got some 1-drops, Mondale's Wanderer and Spectral Sailor, Rattle Chains and Supreme Phantom, Spell Queller lives over here, very normal Spirit stuff. But instead of playing No More Lies, because we were playing Sheltered by Ghost and Enduring Innocence, both of which are enchantments, we get to go back to playing Geistlight Snare. So a Geistlight Snare is just going to be a 3-mana counterspell. It costs 1 less if you control a spirit, and one less if you control an enchantment. And with Enduring Innocence and Sheltered by Ghosts both being in the main deck, we're able to make that happen a lot more than we would normally expect. Our sideboard is just going to have the other 2 copies of Portable Hole, so we're going to be playing a total of 4. 3 copies Invasion of Gobakhan. Now, at the Regional Championship, Blue-White Control was the single most popular deck, even if I simply happened to not face any. Invasion of Gobakhan is incredible against that deck, it's super good, but it's also just really good against a bunch of the mid-range lists as well, so I really love this card right now. We've got 3 copies of Aether Gust, and that's going to be my concession to mono green, but also it just happens to be pretty decent against all of these hyper-aggressive red decks that are trying to play cards like Monstrous Rage. After you go ahead, I don't know, maybe declare a block on something, they Monstrous Rage, Titan Strength a thing, all of a sudden you're looking at 8 to 10 damage, and then you just Aether Gust, ruining their nefarious plans and making their lives miserable, and, well, hopefully winning that game from there. So Aether Gust, I think, is actually in a pretty decent place right now. We've got 2 copies of Rest in Peace. These are primarily for Izzet Phoenix, but Greasefang is a relevant part of the Pioneer meta, so Rest in Peace currently has multiple jobs. Be aware of that. We've got 2 copies of Catilda. Once again, there's a lot of removal-based decks, and the ability to just have Catilda as like a 4/4 lifelink sometimes is pretty huge, but also just being able to recast it is good against a lot of decks. Like, this card just is really decent. I don't know that I want it in the main deck right now because we have the Wandering Emperors and the Enduring Innocences, and both of those cards, along with Sheltered by Ghosts, will accidentally gain us quite a bit of life in Game 1. But it is still nice to have a giant threatening life linkers in Games 2 and 3 against these really aggressive decks. And speaking of which, we've got 3 copies of Knockout Blow as well. And this is just, again, primarily a concession to the fact that Monastery Swift Spear, I'm not going to edit that out, is both really good and everywhere. So that's our sideboard. Anyway, deck list complete. Let's jump right into some gameplay. No need to wait around. See y'all there.
Today's video brought to you by FusionGamingOnline.com, your one-stop shop for all your gaming needs.
Opponent's going first. I've got Specs, double Supreme, double Sheltered by Ghost. So in the event that they're just playing like 1-drops and I get to just do the thing, that feels really good. So I am going to try to keep this and see what happens. So we've got a Swamp, and we're actually going to follow up with a Mausoleum Wanderer. That feels pretty good. That means that I don't need to play this in the main phase. What I can do here is play Specs, untap, see what happens, and then potentially protect it with Maz Wanderer. And it looks like that's not going to happen, but I'm completely cool with them using a 2-drop removal spell on that. So I'm going to do this, maximize my mana, play Supreme Phantom, see if it untaps and go from there. Now, if they want to play something that costs 3, like, I don't know, say a Graveyard Trespasser or something, then I don't mind untapping and Virtue of Persistence. That sucks that it was specifically that, but it is what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and use my Mirrex to add just the blue here, protecting it with the Rattle Chains, and I don't mind just untapping and seeing what happens here. If they play Shieldred, I'm okay to just Sheltered by Ghosts it, and honestly, I don't need to touch anything. This is fine too. So I can play Specs and Rattle Chains. This way, if they play something like, I don't know, say an Extinction Event, I can counter it with Mausoleum Wanderer quite easily. So let's see what the hell we're aiming for here. Is this a go for the throat? It is. I will use a spell to deal with that. Now let's see if they're going to have a follow-up here, like go for the throat, fatal push, etc. Okay, looks like no follow-up on that, but let's see what happens here. Okay, so they're going to untap and they can make 5 mana here. So let's see what happens now that they have access to 5. Is this end step or upkeep? Upkeep, okay. So it looks like they're, well, not much I'm doing about that. Yeah, you got it. I am going to play the Specs. Let's see what happens if I get to untap here. Looks like relatively normal fare, so go ahead and take your 2, opponent. I'm not going to play the Supreme Phantom because I've got this Brazen Bower up, so let's just pass and see what happens here. I'm a little shocked that they... that's actually fine. Yeah, I can just bounce it back. That's okay. I'm going to bounce it back first, and this way, I can give myself a chance to draw like a lands and a Rattle Chains maybe. Well, there's a land, so that's a good start. And I'm going to just go ahead and attack here. So I'm not going to play my Supreme Phantom because I have the option of playing either Borrower or drawing a card, and they don't need to see that I have this. So if they just want to recast this, that's completely fine. I can just play Brazen, untap, and that is a Hive. Okay. And now I can just play Supreme Phantom first, and what I'm going to do here is use my Sheltered by Ghost on Specs so that Maz Wanderer can protect it if need be. So this can get rid of the Bloodletter, and now they've got hopefully a decent amount of work to do if they want to get out of this. 5, 6, 7, so they can just cast this, but I do have another Petty Theft, and a Shelter by Ghost, so that base is covered. Also, there's just like not a lot of creatures in graveyards right now, right? Like I've got 3 spirits, but like none of those really scare me currently. They are gonna make me sack 2 creatures. That's actually fine. Yeah, that's fine. I'm just gonna get rid of Brazen Borrower and Supreme Phantom, and I'll just accept that my clock is smaller. Okay, 1, 2. So now if they Fatal Push with 3 lands, yeah, that's fine. Goodbye Wanderer. And is there a benefit? Yes, I can both Petty Theft and Brazen Borrower if I do this. Okay. Archfiend does not matter. I can Petty Theft, Brazen Borrower, untap, Shelter by Ghost for the extra point of power. Got it. I don't actually need to do it like this. I could have simply cast a Brazen Borrower and untapped and done the thing, but okay. I was gonna say, but whatever. We got the lethal. So against this mid-rangey pile, I want the Invasion of Gobakons, I want Catildas, and I do not want Portable Hole is kind of medium at best. How much do I actually want Sheltered by Ghosts? And the answer is I think not that much. Yeah, I'm a little high on the CMC here, but I actually think this is the way. I would much rather have more threats than not against this deck that I'm going to assume has like 1,000,000 copies each of Duress and Thoughtseize. And remembering that they're a Duress deck, most likely, it's actually pretty good that I'm siding out a bunch of these non-creature spells too, so that should be cool. Hopefully Duress is going to be a lot more likely to miss as a result of that. Okay, so this time we're on the draw. I've got double Gobakon, Catilda, Geistlight Snare. This is a very slow hand, but I actually think I like that against these Thoughtseize piles. So I'm just going to lead off onto Seachrome Coast, see what they want to do with their turn 2, and honestly just kind of go from there. Yeah, this makes perfect sense. Like, they're not really doing anything with the turn, and neither am I, so I'm just going to play this, and I'm just going to start with a Gobakon and see what they got. All right, show me your moves. Rush of Dread, Eclipse is -2s, exile things instead. Unstoppable Slasher can come down next turn, and I can't do anything about that. So I'm just going to take the Slasher, make it cost 5, knowing that I can Geistlight Snare this on time. Yeah, sure, let's do that. If they draw another one, then whatever opponent, you got me. But it looks like that's not going to be what's happened either. So I'm just going to play a Plains. That turns this to a blue-white land. And I can hold up either Snare plus Specs, or I can just cast Catilda and make them deal with that on their turn. They don't have anything instant speed, right? Yeah, no. So what happens here? I can, in theory, Catilda and a Rush of Dread. I don't like that. Or play this thing. Or I can simply hold up Specs plus Geistlight. Let's do that instead. So now they played Archfiend. I have Specs. I have Geistlight. And now I can untap. And Enduring Innocence is really good, but this exiles. So I want to do something about that part of the card first. What do you got? Another Archfiend. I can make that Archfiend cost 6, but I don't really care. They have double Eclipse, which is obnoxious. I think I still want to take the other Eclipse. I'm gonna make you blue and simply attack. So the fact that these malicious Eclipses specifically exile honestly is kind of miserable, but I'm not in a position to really do anything about it. So I don't know, QQ, I guess. Spell Queller is okay, not great. Okay, I am gonna get rid of you, and I'm gonna flip one of these so that I can at least play around stuff a little bit. I don't love the fact that this Archfiend is gonna come right back if they cast this now. Fountain Port, okay, yeah. There was never anything I can do about that, so it is what it is. Now they get their Archfiend back, and I can still attempt to do something about this. Let's draw a land. A Specs. Not quite a land, also not bad. I want to do what? Yeah, doing nothing actually sounds okay. So they get to do the oil counter bit, whatever. Also of note, I don't really care about this attack, that's fine. If they just lose to their own Archfiend, I am super cool with that. Okay, so I'm gonna play my Specs now. If they have a removal spell on these 2 cards, then I'm okay to just make use of this Spell Queller too, so let's untap. A Moz Wanderer is actually pretty decent. So I'm gonna play said Moz Wanderer. My Specs is gonna pump. If they decide to cast this one for 5, then I can Spell Quell it, untap, be pretty happy about that. If one of these is a removal spell, I'm not gonna do anything about that. I'm just gonna let that rock. Yeah, you got that. So I'll lose 2 and go to 14. That's kind of whatever. So we got 2 more turns of worrying about this nonsense. And I think I'm actually just going to let that rock if that's what they choose to do here. But let's see. What are we casting? A Virtue of Persistence. Okay. So I can either sack this to this and make them lose life. Rush of Dread is also okay-ish. Yeah, I'm just going to give it Hexproof. Fuck it. Hexproof. Leave my shit alone. No virtue. And they can't really attack into this now because I've got indestructible as well, so that's another very valuable oil counter gone. I'm gonna just untap. Supreme Phantom is decent for later, but I'm not gonna do anything with that. I'm just gonna chill and let them lose to their own card. If they decide to target themselves, they can't. They literally can't even target themselves with that. So they gotta like go for the throat this or something. So I'm just gonna take this attack and go to 8. I'm not doing anything about that. I'm just gonna try to let them lose to their own card. Another invasion. Okay. So what do I want to do with that? Do I want to do anything with that? No, I don't want to do anything with that. I'm just gonna let them untap and lose to their own shit. All right, so they're going to try to go for the throat their own friend here. I'm going to spell quell the go for the throat. And now my Mausoleum Wanderer is going to be a 2 power, so they can't have another either. And GG's opponent. All right, that was sweet. Let's move to the next round. Okay, we're on the draw, but this hand is acceptable, right? Like I've got a turn 1 Portable Hole, turn 2 interaction, turn 3 interaction provided I draw land and Sheltered by Ghosts, so I can manage 2 creatures and 2 spells with this current hand. Okay. Beseju. Are we a Llanowar Elf pile? We are Hardened Scales. Holy shit. Cool. Oh, that is a name I haven't even thought about in a really long time. Let's not deal with that shit today. Please go away. Now, you can approach these matchups in one of 2 ways, right? Like you can either deal with the Hardened Scales or deal with all the threats. And this is exactly... Thank you, opponent. That was perfect. This is exactly why I decided to Portable Hole the Hardened Scales, because now they can go ahead and cast all their cool shit, right? But this way, I'm not stuck with like a really awkward turn 2 having held the Portable Hole here when this thing has warded the whole time. Like I was not going to be able to deal with this with the Portable Hole, so I may as well deal with the card that I can deal with in the Hardened Scales, and it happened that this was just like kind of perfect as far as the timing went. So I can't do shit about this, but I can totally deal with everything else now. I want to play you as a blue source. I'm going to Shelter by Ghosts, getting rid of the Stone Coil Serpent that I already hate because reach. And now if it comes back, it's going to come back as a 0/0 as well. You don't have reach, so let's get our lifelink in there. And don't get it twisted. This thing can totally outvalue me by itself or outrace me. But the fact, what do you do? Nothing I care about. Okay, so it's a much harder to interact with Arcbound Ravager is what I'm reading out of that. Cool, but it's not an artifact, and this format doesn't have all of the really broken sacrifice stuff, so I'm a lot less worried about that. So I'm going to play you, and I do want to give myself room to go both Spell Queller plus Geistlight Snare. So let's work towards that instead of pumping with Supreme Phantom this turn. I can do that next turn. So I'm back up at 20, and I'm actually just like curious as to what nonsense they can come up with, right? Innkeeper's Talent is incredibly scary. I am not going to be dealing with that today if you don't mind, opponent. So I'm going to Spell Quell that first because I can't Geistlight Snare it. And now whatever they do cast, I can Geistlight Snare pretty safely. They also don't really get a good attack in, which is nice. I'm still not casting this other Supreme Phantom. I'm just going to hold up for Brazen and or Wandering Emperor. Yeah, I've got options. I don't need to press this specific button here. So let's make them take 5, go to 11. I gain 2 and go to 22. And my Wandering Emperor or Brazen Borrower plus this gives me a lot of options. Like, we're in a decent place. Ochre Jelly, what the fuck do you do? X counters, if it dies, blah, blah. Okay, that's fine. Don't really care about that. So if you want to attack, that's... Oh, well, all right. Won't lie and say I actually expected them to attack, but I will take the relatively free block. So the counter can go on to one of these other things, but neither of these things have reach, so I already don't really care about that. And this has trample, but this doesn't, so, like, we're kind of living right now. So I'm going to put a counter here, and since I no longer have the Spell Queller, I can play my Mausoleum Wanderer at last, and I'm going to attack with my 2 flyers. So they take 8, they go down to 3, I'm at 26, so this game couldn't really be safer if I tried currently, and they pack it up. Sick. So against artifact nonsense, I want Portable Holes, I want Catilda for lifelink racing, and oddly enough, we want Rest in Peace. So a lot of those cards that we just saw have the Texas if this thing dies, but if you have Rest in Peace, nothing ever actually dies. I want to take out 3 more cards. Do I want to take out the Specs plus a plus a Wandering Emperor? Or do I want to take out something else? No, I think it is gonna be the Specs plus a Wandering Emperor. Yeah, all right. Okay, game 2, we're on the draw. Jesus Christ. Well, that's going back. And this hand is honestly not that much better, but it is better, so I will keep it. So upside is that our current hand configuration does allow me to play everything. The downside to that thought process, though, is that everything here is not necessarily great. Now, I do have Flood Farm Verge plus Plains, so we do have perfect mana. There's a Patchwork, okay, time to cry about that. And we untap into a Geistlight Snare, which is not that terrible going forward. It's just not that great currently either. So they could really explode here. Oh, that's good to know about. So Innkeeper's Talent is already just like a pretty terrifying magic card for us as it is. Yeah, can't lie and tell y'all that I love that. At least they don't get to attack this turn, I guess. Oh, wait a minute. So I can do this and draw into a portable hole? Let's do that. I don't care if they put things on here if I eventually get to draw a portable hole and get out of it, right? So I can play you. You're going to be a 3/3. I will get my attack in because I don't plan on blocking. And since I have a giant fucking lifelinker, then I'm not super worried about losing this race, provided I untap with Catilda. So they do have black mana, so that's not guaranteed. But what does level 3 even do? Double up counters. Okay, that's fine. So I'm going to go to 12, and then it's going to be 14-15 my favor. That's not bad. This doesn't trample. So I actually can make use of that. Yeah, that's fine. So you have ward 3, right? Yeah, that's actually completely okay here. So they can go ahead, put counters on here. It's going to go up to 7. I go down to 8. And I can do what from here? I can play Wandering Emperor, plus, I don't know, here, I guess. X is just 2, okay. Yeah, this isn't that bad for me. Okay, never mind. It went from not bad to actively good. So now I can Wandering Emperor, put a +1 counter on my lifelinker. This way I get to keep my, I guess, race integrity, whatever you want to call it there. Play this, which is even better, and then get ready to exile this, paying ward 3, keeping up my Rattlechains mana? Hell yeah. So I am going to auto pay here, and these are 2 separate triggers, so I'm going to let that second trigger resolve and pay for that as well. And now that thing gets the hell out of my face. I go up to 10 and then 12. In theory, I could block here, so I'm not going to attack with my Supreme Phantom. The clock also doesn't change by that much, I believe. All right, so we're at 14 with double protection for our friend Catilda here. And right now, I don't know that I super care about too many other cards. If they attack here to here, I'm just going to let that rock. What do? Vigilance, Trample, Haste, and you're going to come in as a 4/4 because X is 2 and they have this. That does not change anything about my thought processes here. Another Innkeeper's Talent, however, is incredibly scary, so I will be doing something about that. So what happens here? They can put counters here. They have 12 power. I don't know that I love that distribution since I can block here, but I will just go ahead and take 10. Okay. Well, even if we weren't already doing the thing, we're certainly doing it now. So this ward is only 1, and remember, nothing dies here, so we can just pay our ward cost, and it's kind of whatever. I'm also going to be able to portable hole the big Hydra here, since you also only have ward 1, and this does not take my Rattlechains away. So they go to 5, I go to 10, creatures have been dealt with, and I still have Rattlechains up just in case this black mana is important. That does not scare me in the slightest. Okay, so 8 and... Oh, actually, no, that's false. Oh, no, that sucks, actually. Wait, I'm a liar. That does scare me. Do both of these things trample too, so I can absorb 3 damage. They're doing 12. I go to 1. Yikes, that was scary. Okay, wait a minute. That is absorbing all of this. I would take 8. Okay, yeah. Oof, terrifying. Not even gonna lie. All right, well, they almost got me, but nothing has reached, so we prevail. Phew, next round, y'all. Be sure to check out additional content from myself, Nikachu, the Commander Cookout, and others at themanabase.com. Last round of the day, we're going to be on the play for this one, so boo! All right, that's better. The fuck was that first hand? Anyway, so I can do this, get rid of the basic island, and then our hand is relatively live as soon as turn 2, so I'm not terribly sad about that. I do love these Quintorius sleeves. Whoop, okay. I like that a lot less for me. Hopefully they don't just have Nykthos. That is a Citadel, which is not great for me. Okay, so I'm gonna do this. I can start playing Rattlechains, which honestly have no other text than be a 2/1 flash against this deck anyway. Fuck, there's a Nykthos. Okay, well, this is gonna be a little rough, not gonna lie. Can't do much about the elf either, so I'm just gonna go ahead and play my Rattlechains, and we are hoping for the best here. Fuck off, opponent. Let me untap. Okay. So I can do this, and I think I just start attacking their base, because like 7 loyalty is a lot on this Kiora. I'm not going to get it down anytime this century. And hopefully they don't just have like a big giant ass Storm the Festival to fuck me up with. Instead, I'm hoping for things like Pelucranos or Old Growth Troll or stuff like that, right? Because they currently have access to like 675 mana. Welp, I very specifically asked you to not do that, but okay. Yeah, these leyline starts are pretty fucked, and I'm pretty comfortable packing this up. All right, we're not getting out of that. So the leyline starts are super difficult for us to deal with, and most of the other starts are honestly not even that bad. But we do have our friend Aethergust here. We have a couple of ground pounders that I'm not super excited about. Do I have one more thing that I want rather than this? I guess I'd rather have a flyer than that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, because my Enduring Innocences as just like 3 mana sorcery speed 2/1s, they're pretty bad against specifically mono green. Almost every other deck in the format, they're pretty good, but in this matchup, they're kind of terrible. And Wandering Emperor isn't much better, so I would rather just have more interaction and more flyers. So here I'm going to get to play first, except not with this hand, and this is not necessarily optimal, but it is pretty damn good. So I'm going to get rid of this Mirix here, have perfect mana, and yeah, I can deal with like Llanowar Elves, boo, got a half decent clock going. So mine is like Sunken Citadel starts. They hopefully do have to actually play at a somewhat fair pace here. Don't love that for me, but like I said, I do have the interaction, so at least I can deal with this first thing and then just kind of go from there. So option B, I could have held up Geistlight Snare, and then the next turn, sick. That is a Garen Brig, okay. I want to simply get my shit going. So if I draw a land this turn, then I have access to Aethergust plus Geistlight Snare. So I'm really happy. Oh my god, they're not doing anything. Let's go. We will take these stolen games. I do love that. So I don't really mind taking these games from these people because like the leyline hands are easily the scariest thing they could be doing most of the time. And all right, sick. So we're just gonna run that exact configuration back. So I was a little worried about doing that on the first turn that Aethergust, the leyline play was available, because, you know, I wasn't guaranteed to have double response the next turn. But if they're going to just like miss their land drop and not doing anything, then I'm very happy to set them back. But yeah, I don't mind taking those free wins sometimes against that deck because it's very powerful and it has its own built-in fail rate. So that is what I believe kind of like balances these decks out, you know? So there's an Elvish Mystic, understood. Specs is online. If they don't have anything good to do other than, I don't know, like Wolf Willow Haven plus attack, I will Spectral Sailor and block. But we are foretelling? No, Outcaster, duh. Yikes. Hate that for me. Can't do anything about that because they're just going to be able to cast this for 0 and then like pay to 3 if they really want. Yeah, like I can't do shit about that. But I can go ahead and counter the follow-up spell like this. So that at least does something for me. Still not fantastic, don't love this, but I currently can't do anything about it, so it kind of is what it is. Elvish Mystic, so they can untap with 6 mana next turn? Fucking yikes. Hate that for me. At least you don't have reach. 3 lands is also not where I want to be, so... Oh boy. Okay, so more elves. I will not be blocking that. Let's untap and see what we get. Oh, come on, deck. Why? Alright, at least I can start drawing with specs here, but, like, this is not good. Honestly, this is not close. Cavalier Thorns, we are fucking dead. So I can draw a... not that. I can draw a Sheltered by Ghosts, but this is, pretty rough overall. Scrap Shooter, too? Come on. Grab Shooter. Boo. Oh, we 5 lands, y'all. Alright, I am not ashamed to pack this one up. We've taken our L for the day. Peace, y'all. Alright, so we got to highlight, honestly, quite a few parts of this deck a little bit, right? And even though we did take a relatively savage L against Mono Green in that game 3, we saw where, like, they had some really powerful things to be doing, and we still kind of had the tools to deal with that, right? Like, the Portable Holes are really good against the Llanowar Elf part of the deck. The Aethergust kind of serves as a really good catch-all against that, and both parts of that did come up in all 3 of our relatively non-interactive games there. So, I don't know, kudos there. Excuse me. And just about everything else that's not named Knockout Blow or Rest in Peace actually came up in at least one of our games already, right? Like, we got to use Brazen Borrower for both bounce and aggro. Spell Queller's great. Shelter by Ghosts, you already saw how good that was. We got to end the game, I think we were at 22 life when one of those games were over, but like we got to see just how powerful this card was. We got to see Flood Farm Verge provide virtually perfect mana when we needed it to at basically all points in time. So, and Enduring Innocence is just like a solid, decent card that I don't think it came up really, but it had the ability to come up against the mono black deck, and sure, we didn't see it, but like, it's still really good, right? And then, of course, the Wandering Emperors are just a busted legacy playable card. So overall, pretty excited about what Spirits has the ability to do, even if we can just draw the relatively awkward hands, and sometimes we will just lose to the decks that are doing really powerful things, even if we have a decent matchup against those really powerful things. But I like the place of Spirits right now within the metagame, and we have the tools, you know, based on just being a white deck, to be able to sideboard against pretty much whatever the hell we want. If there is a deck that we want to beat, well, we're playing white. That's the best sideboard color in basically every single format, so we can always just kind of season our deck to taste. And that's going to be it for today's gameplay. Let me know in the comments if you like Spirits, and of course, what the hell you think about Wizards dropping Pioneer as a format in 2025. But if you do like what you saw today, make sure you click the like button, let me know, subscribe to the channel if we're new. We hit 2,000 subscribers a little bit ago. I would love to see that get to 2,500 soon. And of course, I'll see y'all on the next one.